Hi, my name is Maddie DiMarzio, and my persuasive speech is going to be about the negative representation of AAVE, African American Vernacular English, in the media and how we can change that. African American Vernacular English, or AAVE, is often negatively represented in the media, such as commercials, movies, and even the news. People who speak AAVE are considered and portrayed as uneducated, unintelligent, low-class, unemployable, according to Tom Robinson of the Miami Herald in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, or even morally corrupt. These ideas are put into the minds of the public through the media, and this causes them to have prejudices in everyday life against people who speak AAVE. These prejudices affect things such as what products people buy based on commercials, and even an entire jury's ruling of a court case based on how credible the witness seemed to them. In 2013, George Zimmerman was put on trial for the murder of a teenage African-American boy, Trayvon Martin, in Miami, Florida. Discussions of the case were broadcasted all over the country. Zimmerman was accused of chasing down Martin for no reason and then killing him. The prosecution found out that Martin was on the phone with someone at the time that Zimmerman was chasing him and knew that that had to be their star witness for their case against Zimmerman. The girl that was on the phone with Martin at the time was Rachel Jeantels, a teenage African-American girl, a rising senior in high school. Jeantels' testimony was that Martin was on the phone with her on his way home, and he decided to cut through some yards to get home faster when it started to rain. Martin said that there was a man following him, and Jeantels told him to run, but Martin thought he lost him. A few moments later, the phone cut out. That is when Martin was killed. The star witness spoke AAVE. Her mother is from Haiti and speaks Creole French, and her father is from the Dominican Republic and speaks Spanish. Jeantels also came from a school district where most of the students could not read. The jurors of the Trayvon Martin case had a hard time understanding Jeantels. In John Rickford's linguistic discussion of Jeantels' testimony in the case, he found that even though Jeantels was speaking systematic AAVE on the stand, the jurors still could not understand her. This is a quote from the case. The court: "Okay, can we one more time please give that answer again?" The witness, Jeantels: "He said, he told me now that a man is following him. A juror: "Again, or is still?" The court: "Okay, you can't ask questions." Here, Jeantels meant that Martin said that the man that started following him is following him again. The jurors could not understand Jeantels, so they had a hard time finding her testimony credible at all. Because Jeantels spoke AAVE on the stand, which is considered a formal place where one does not speak in an accent or a dialect, and could not code switch, which is switching from one dialect that you speak to a different one, to standard English, there were many public figures who decided Jeantels was uneducated and ignorant. Jim Herron from Appalachian State University said she is a dullard, an idiot, an individual who can barely speak in coherent sentences. This man said this about Jeantels, but her entire testimony was in AAVE, a systematic dialect of English, or even a language of its own. His statement was based solely on his lack of education on AAVE structures and the biases against AAVE learned from the media. Another major area of the media that influences people's opinions is television. Television is very prominent in the lives of Americans. On the television show America's Next Top Model, a panel of judges searches for the next woman to be on the runway and in commercials for things like cosmetics. In one episode, a girl named Danielle did a fake mascara commercial for the show, and in it she spoke AAVE. At the end of her ad, the judges told her that they could not understand her and that she needed to learn to switch to standard English. AAVE or an accent was never directly mentioned, but Tyra Banks, the host of the show and African-American supermodel, told her to leave it behind, talking about Danielle's AAVE accent. Even a male Asian judge who did not speak English at all told his interpreter that when Danielle started talking, he said "okay" in his head in a way that was implied that Danielle was unintelligent. This is a public television show watched by many people, and this episode blatantly told Americans that because Danielle spoke AAVE, she would not get a job in their industry doing commercials, without learning to code switch from AAVE to standard English. Not only supermodels think that AAVE is spoken by unemployable people, but Disney does as well. In the 1940s, when racism was very prominent in American culture, Disney put a song in the movie Dumbo called "When You See an Elephant Fly." In this part of the movie, some crows, or blackbirds, are laughing at Dumbo because he said he could fly. The crows are a sort of bully in this movie, and when they talk and sing this song, they all speak AAVE. In the chorus of the song, the main crow sings, "I be done seen 'bout everything when I see a elephant fly." In standard English, this statement means, "I will have seen everything when I see an elephant fly." This is an exaggerated AAVE sentence, but it's still AAVE. These crows dance flamboyantly and sing loudly. A more recent example of Disney's negative representation of African Americans in AAVE is in the movie The Princess and the Frog. The movie is set in the 1920s and 30s, but was made in 2009. The movie takes place in New Orleans during Mardi Gras weekend. It is about an African American girl whose biggest dream is to own her own restaurant. When a visiting prince goes to the local voodoo man for freedom and money, he is changed into a frog. The movie is centralized around minorities, especially African Americans, and one white family. Everyone in the movie speaks standard English with a southern accent except for one character, Dr. Facilier, the voodoo man. He speaks AAVE. When the prince and his butler meet Dr. Facilier, the butler tells the prince that they should not talk to him because he seems suspicious and dangerous, when all Dr. Facilier had done was talk to the prince for a minute. Dr. Facilier then sings about his voodoo, and he uses AAVE in his song. "I got voodoo, you need to marry a little honey whose daddy got dough, and if you was married, you'd be pushed round by yo wife." All are examples of AAVE in his song. Disney is negatively portraying AAVE, again, as bad by having only the villain in the movie speak it. He has a bad background and is very suspicious, which shows kids that only bad people speak AAVE. In the television show The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air in 1990, Will Smith is a teenager from Philadelphia who moves in with his rich aunt and uncle in Bel-Air, California. Will's aunt and uncle speak standard English, as well as their 3 children, but Will speaks AAVE. Will was raised in a lower-class neighborhood, and his aunt and uncle are very well off, which shows if you are rich, you speak standard English, and if only you are poor and childish with a bad education, do you speak AAVE like Will. These stereotypes are very negative towards AAVE and African Americans, and are out there because no one is taught otherwise. To address the issue of negative stereotyping in media, people should be educated about AAVE, and that it is a structured, systematic language. There is even a course available here at Wayne State on the language offered by the linguistics program. Also, people who speak it are not necessarily uneducated, that this is just the dialect of English that they learned as a child. There can be people who are uneducated who speak it, like Rachel Jeantels. There are also uneducated people who speak standard English as well. To educate people about AAVE, there should be classes in elementary schools and even higher up, that teach children the difference between AAVE and standard English. If you want to become a teacher, or already are, maybe you could make it your goal to get AAVE grammar classes in your school. Also, to halt the stereotypes in media right now, a review board could be put in place to review commercials, television shows, movies, and news to find if there are any offensive stereotypes or negative representations of AAVE or any language. This would be a goal for journalists, TV and movie producers, and linguists to collaborate on. This would be a difficult task, but fixing a deep social ingrained stereotype will be difficult. This can be fixed slowly by educating people of all ages about AAVE and its structure, and maybe even trying to help filter media for negative presentations of the language. Thank you.